And now we continue our week-long look at childhood trauma. Tonight we explore how trauma is passed down from generation to generation in rural Montana, where mental health resources are scarce and a stigma surrounds seeking treatment. Special correspondent Kat Wise and producer Leah Nagy look at what is being done to break that cycle, and a warning. This piece includes references to suicide and sexual abuse that may be disturbing to some viewers. It's part of our series, Invisible Scars, America's Childhood Trauma Crisis.
At the end of a winding dirt road in Montana's Boulder Valley lies the 3-room log cabin where Grace Folk's story begins.
What I remember most was being really little, and my dad would have these little campfires, and we'd all sit in lawn chairs, and he'd just bring his guitar out and he'd play.
It's an idyllic setting.
Yeah, we'd play in the creek. There used to be a rope swing down there.
But the rugged individualism that often still defines life in rural Montana can mask deep suffering. And darker moments from Grace's childhood cast a shadow on her happy memories.
My dad, working at the mine, would leave for long periods at a time. And suffering from bipolar, he would hit the lows and the depressions, and he couldn't get out of bed. He began drinking pretty heavily as well, like his father before him, I guess.
A cycle of untreated trauma passed down from one generation to the next.
His dad was an abusive alcoholic. His grandpa was schizophrenic. He never treated that wound properly. He would just kind of self-medicate. He had to pull up his bootstraps and be a man.
When she was a freshman in high school, Grace's worst fear came true. Her father took his life.
I just fell into the deepest, darkest place that I've ever been in my entire life. I was writing notes to loved ones because I didn't want to be on this planet anymore. Like, I thought about taking my own life.
Grace's story is all too common in this state. Montana has one of the highest rates of suicide in the country, including for adolescents. Experts say many children here are growing up in homes plagued by domestic abuse, drug and alcohol addiction, and depression. University of Montana professor Ryan Tolson-Nee says a lack of resources combined with a deeply ingrained stigma against even acknowledging mental health issues has led to a crisis of untreated trauma in his state.
There's a certain amount of stigma around seeking help or getting help from others or not solving problems on your own. We also see it with respect to being able to access services in remote areas, so rural areas are having a much harder time. Hospitals that don't have the ability to stay alive in rural communities.
Those were among the issues that contributed to a nightmare scenario in Grace's town of Big Timber several years ago.
30% of our high school students had seriously thought about suicide. 19% had actually attempted at least one or more times.
Across rural Montana, school counselors are often the only resource for students struggling with mental health issues.
There, sounds good.
But Grace was lucky. Her guidance counselor was able to connect her to a new program that Grace says saved her life. In January 2019, Amber Martinson Blake became Montana's first community health worker specializing in mental health in rural areas. She's now a trusted, discreet local guide to mental health resources available in Big Timber and across the state via telehealth.
The fact that I'm from this community, I think, has played a huge role in our success with this program. People know my face, they know my name, and that's really your boots on the ground. That's your trusted individual in the community who has a unique understanding of that culture and knows how to kind of work with that population.
She connected Grace to one of the county's few therapists, Amber Overstreet.
First, it's developing a relationship so that therapy becomes a safe place, and then normalizing, there's a reason why we're here. And then we kind of start to dig into the memories themselves.
So I start seeing her, and from the very first session, I'm opening up about things and learning things about myself that I didn't even realize about myself. I just had so many blocks of shame and trauma.
While attitudes and resources are starting to change in some parts of the state, other areas are still struggling, like Montana's reservations, where Native youth suicide deaths occur at 5 times the rate of the rest of the state. Nationwide, Native American children are 2 to 3 times more likely than non-Hispanic white children to have experienced multiple ACEs or adverse childhood experiences. Those are potentially traumatic events that occur in childhood.
I remember when I first took the ACE study, my score was 6, and that was really surprising to me.
Savannah Sinqua grew up on the Crow Reservation, some 40 miles outside of Billings. She was raised mostly by her mother.
Not having both parents in the household really affected, my self-esteem, my confidence level. Some of the stuff I've seen, of course, like family members that were thrown in jail or prison, physical abuse. I actually lost track of how many family members I've lost through wrecks or drinking or overdosing. With adults not being around, there was just predators, like sexual predators. And there's a lot of things that have happened to me. I am a sexual abuse survivor, whereas unfortunately probably a lot of us are, but that's not something that is really spoken about.
Savannah says many of the hardships experienced by children on the reservation today are the result of trauma that goes back generations. Vast stretches of Sinqua's ancestors' lands were taken away by the U.S. government. That displacement and many other injustices, she says, are at the root of so many problems Native people face around the country. When Savannah learned about adverse childhood experiences for the first time, it was a wake-up call.
I felt like somebody had turned the light on in a dark room. A lot of the shame, the guilt, it wasn't all stuff that was happening because of choices I made. I was born into this trauma, historical trauma, transgenerational trauma, and it actually did affect my life as an adult now.
That knowledge helped Savannah process her childhood experiences. She now works as a therapist, and she's educating her community about trauma.
Now my generation, this is a new thing, but I am one of the first to learn about trauma and then come out and teach my people. But there's still not a lot of knowledge.
At a recent family dinner,
hello,
Savannah's aunt and mother shared how she helped them see their own history through a new lens.
I never thought of myself as traumatized.
The kind of traumas I think of were what she had to go through. Couldn't talk Crow in school, could only speak English, so then they had to do sign language to each other. I think about that, and in my head, that's real trauma.
Mm-hmm.
Savannah says she hopes that recognizing trauma will be the first step in a long journey of healing for her community.
Kids are so resilient. They will love people that have, they will love people that have put them through so much, but they're showing up every day. And that's just so powerful. And children honestly give me hope that one day things will be better.
Grace Folk shares that hope. Now when she returns to the land where she grew up, she can feel how far she's come.
This is where my father, he took his life. I think it was about 2 years before I came back down here. It doesn't give me a negative feeling to be down here. We've really worked hard to make peace with things.
Grace is working for the community health program that set her on a new course in life.
My dad used to always talk about breaking the chain. It's something that he really wanted to do. I feel like I have this opportunity to look other people in the eyes who have gone through similar experiences as me and to tell them, you're gonna be okay. I'm kind of hell-bent on being the chain breaker because that's what my dad would have wanted.
And she's now a musician like her dad.
I've been banking on some luck I can't afford.
She'll carry on his song, but she hopes her family's chain of trauma has been broken with her.
All of these moments keep on passing like we've been here before.
For the PBS NewsHour, I'm Kat Wise in Montana.
I can't hear them anymore.
Thank you, Kat. And you can listen to more of Grace's song on Instagram. You can find us at instagram.com/newshour.